Hi, welcome back to the shed for episode 2 of Great Guitar Build Off 2023. And in this episode, we're going to start breaking down some material and get it glued up into the center section of this guitar. Okay, to get this build started, we need to get a look at this plan and figure out what we need to cut to create this central section. Now, I've drawn this out so that this central section is just over 95mm. It's about 97mm. However, at its thickest, the neck is only about 60mm. So obviously, I don't want to laminate a great big chunk of wood 100mm wide just to cut 2/3 of it down to 60mm and thinner. That would just be a little bit wasteful on material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a central section that is about 60mm wide, which will account for the thickest part of the neck. And then I'll add on some additional bits at the body end just to bring it out to the thickness that I need. So that leaves this neck section being about 60mm wide. However, it'll then taper down to about kind of 44-45mm at the nut, which is important because what I don't want to happen is when I cut that taper in, I'm actually cutting through some of the laminations in the neck, so that I've got a change in material as we progress down the neck. So with that in mind, I'm going to keep all of the laminations to within 15mm from each side of the center line, and then I'll bulk it out with additional material to get us that 60mm thickness. Once I've decided on a headstock shape, I'll probably have to add some wings just to give me the material I need to cut that out. But other than that, I think this plan should be a goer. In terms of the laminations, I'm going to put some white and black veneers down the centre. I'm going to have a very thin stripe of maple on either side, and then a slightly thicker stripe of mahogany, and then the rest of this material will again be maple. And then when I bulk the body section out to get the thickness I need, I might add some more veneers into that as well, just to give it a bit of interest. I've done a little bit of mocking up with these elements of the plan, just to figure out how actually thick I need my laminations to be. Now, this isn't going to have an angled neck like an original would have done. It is going to be pretty much straight, but with an angled headstock, which means I need a minimum of a 50mm thick blank. I'm actually going to make mine 60mm because I haven't got any hardware yet. So I just want to give myself about 10mm of wriggle room to make sure there's not going to be an issue there. And this is the material I'm going to be using. I've got this piece of maple, which is just short of 190mm. I only really need 180 because I need 3 lengths of this at 60mm. And then I've got this length of mahogany, which is already 60mm. So that just needs slicing down a couple of times into those thinner strips that I want. Okay, nothing for it to get this to the bandsaw and start cutting. Okay, so there's my 3 strips cut. Bandsaw was playing up a little bit at the beginning. It didn't want to cut straight, so I had to kind of fiddle with it and fettle it a bit, but we got there in the end. It's actually cut that rather nicely, to be honest. So next up, we need to slice some of this down to get the thicknesses that we need. Now, 2 of my thicknesses are 20mm, and this is 23mm. So by the time I've put that through the planer, that's going to be absolutely fine. So those 2 are okay. The other 2 strips of maple I want are around about 5mm. So obviously that's way too thick. However, with the way that the bandsaw is performing at the moment, I don't want to cut this too fine because I could end up with not enough material. So I think what I will do is I will try and cut this straight down the middle, which will give me about 11mm, and then I can plane that down to thickness. It's a little bit wasteful, but I haven't got any more material, and if I mess this up, I've got no stripes for my neck. So that will do for that one. And this I want to do 7 to 8mm stripes, and this is 27mm. So again, I'll cut these thicker than they need to be, and then we can plane them down to thickness. So back on with the ear defenders and back to the bandsaw. Well, that's all my laminations cut. The bandsaw didn't like that at all. For some reason it's really struggling. I don't know why. It's a fairly new blade. I've cut much thicker material than this before. It found the mahogany a little bit easier than the maple. Obviously the maple is quite hard, but we got there, and it's actually done a relatively nice job of slicing that down nice and straight. So ultimately quite happy with the results, even though it was a little bit of a pain to get there. So next up, we need to break out the thicknesser and get these to the dimensions that we actually want. Okay, so there's all my laminations cut. I'm actually a little bit thicker on this maple than I wanted to be, but my planer doesn't go any thinner than that. And I haven't got the time to hand plane them down that further millimetre. So I'll leave them as they are. I'm sure it'll all be fine. I've also cut some veneers to go into here. So there's 2 white and 2 black. There's going to be 2 whites in the very centre, a black on either side, and then we're going to go maple, walnut, maple to make up the rest of the laminations. But the next thing I need to do is I actually need to insert some dowels right into the very end of here, just to keep everything nice and aligned when I'm gluing up. It makes it a lot easier. It means that they can't kind of slip and slide once we get the glue on. Okay, let's go. I've got all my laminates ready. They're all in order that they need to go together. I've got all my veneers ready as well. I've actually snuck another couple of black ones in to go just inside these outer sections of maple between the mahogany. Hopefully that will give a nice effect. Got a full bottle of glue. I've got a spreader. I've covered everything down with paper because this is going to be a messy job. There isn't going to be any time for delicacy getting this glue up done. I've got a very limited amount of time before the glue starts to go off, and there's a lot of work to do. Okay, so that's all glued up now. I've seemed to have got a good amount of squeeze out all along that, so I think I've got enough glue into it and I think it's clamped up well enough. I just need to leave this now. I'm probably going to leave it overnight just to really dry out properly. There's an awful lot of glue gone into that, so I'm not going to rush things. I'm not even going to bother trying to clean up all the squeeze out. This is all going to have to go through the planer again to level it all up, square it all up once this is out clamps, so there's not much point really in spending a load of time cleaning it up. So while this is all drying, I'm going to put it to one side and I'm going to start work on preparing the wood for the wings of the guitar. However, that's going to be for the next episode, so I'll leave this one here. As always, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.